Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be doing a blue smoky eye, heavily inspired by this photo right here. This is Allie from the future. I just realized I forgot to mention as I opened the video, I'm doing a giveaway on Instagram for Valentine's Day. I will go ahead and link my Instagram down below, so if you guys want to win some really fun makeup and just pampering things for Valentine's Day from me, go ahead and check that out on my Instagram. This is a makeup look that Mary Phillips did on Haley Steinfeld for the Grammys, and I am obsessed with it. I love how wearable this is, even though it's a really bold color, so I really wanted to try to recreate a look for you guys. It's going to be inspired by it, and I say that because my colors may not be exact, but of course you can use whatever you guys have at home that are similar colors. If you don't have the exact products that I'm using, this is just for inspiration, and I'm really excited about it. So here's what the final look will look like. This is my before and after. I'm really excited about this look, you guys. I'm not about to waste any time, so let's get started. So I filled in my brows off camera. For those of you who want to know what I used this little mini goof-proof brow pencil from Benefit, and then I filled it in on top with the foolproof brow powder from Benefit as well. And I didn't carve them out because in the photo they're very naturally done, but I'm just gonna go ahead and moisturize the skin. I'm going to be using the Embryolisse Light Cream Concentrate for this. And I'm moisturizing the skin even though we're doing eyes first, because it gives the skin time to absorb the moisturizer. So by the time you're ready for foundation, the skin is going to be really nicely prepped. So now I'm just taking a little bit of my Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless foundation. This is the foundation I'm going to use today, and I'm going to prime the eyes with this. And the reason why I like to do this sometimes is because it really ensures that the shadow will blend seamlessly into the color of the foundation, since we are starting the eyeshadow base with the foundation. So I'm just kind of taking it all across the eyes here, and then we're going to blend it out with a beauty sponge, and then I'm going to set that down with the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Finishing Powder in the shade 05 Fair. And I'm using this shade of powder on purpose because it's slightly lighter than my skin tone, and it seems like she either used like a white eyeshadow, which I don't even know if I have lying around, so I just thought I would make use of this. But it looks like she had kind of a lighter base underneath, like toward the brow bone, so I'm trying to kind of mimic that. Alright, so I'm going to be using the ColourPop Dream Street palette, one of my favorites ever. And I'm actually first going to sweep a little bit of this shade right here. This is called Kaleidoscope, and it kind of has like a bluish, silveryish hue to it. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit of this, and I'm going to kind of sweep it across the entire lid. I'm just going to build it up though, so it's not too much anywhere. But it looks like she had some sort of like a frosty looking shadow kind of toward the top of her eye. So we're just going to create a nice little frosty base. So it's just a really nice light wash of color. So next I'm going to hop into this shade right here called Mermaid Boy. This is going to be our all over color. This is kind of going to be the main color all over. And I'm just going to start by taking this and pressing it toward the lash line. I'm starting really low with most of the product. And then when the brush kind of has less and less product on it, I'm going to move up and really start to buff that into the first shade we applied. And then I'm taking a clean brush and just really buffing over any edges. And I'm going to keep doing this in layers until we get a pretty intense blue, but it's much easier to build up color than it is to try to remove it. So I'm just working in light layers all over the lid. So packing on most of the product toward the lash line, then using that other brush to buff it up and out. I'm just going to do the same thing on this eye until they look even. So now I'm going to take that brush we were using to blend and dip into that silvery shade we were using initially, and I'm just going to further blend out the edges with this. I want a really nice gradient, so I'm going to add a little bit more of that color kind of around the crease area so it fades up into the lighter layer of it, just so that everything fades really nicely. Haley's eyeshadow is so nicely blended, so that's kind of the vibe we're going for. Super blended and a really nice gradient. So I'm actually gonna hop into my Jacqueline Hill palette. I really didn't want to use that many palettes, but I'm just seeing that there's some green in there. So it's a color between these two. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to mix these and see what color I get. So I'm just going in with the darker green first, then dipping it in with the teal blue. And she has like something kind of in the center of the lid that's just a little bit more green to me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add that to just the center. And I'm kind of going in like a diagonal up into the other shadows. And then I'm taking that brush we've been using to blend, just buffing over top to make sure it's nice and blended out. Yeah, that seems more true to color to me. So it looks like she has a really thin black eyeliner on. So I'm just gonna take this one from Physicians Formula. It's their Glide On Gel Eyeliner in Black Velvet. I'm just gonna get super close to the lash line with this because I am going to use some individual lashes. And so to really disguise the tips of them, it's good to have a nice thin line of eyeliner. But she doesn't have a wing or anything, so just go ahead and stop at the end of your eye. I'm also going to line the waterline on the top. So now I'm going to take a little bit of Water Bearer. It doesn't look like she has has very many, if any, matte shadows on her eyes. But just for my personal taste, you could skip this if you don't want to do it. But just for me, I want just a little bit more depth on the outer portion of the eyelid. So I'm really lightly sweeping that dark matte shade over this just to give a little more dimension. So next I'm going to take a makeup wipe and really make a nice clean line on the edge, and then also cleaning up any fallout underneath the eyes. So now we are ready to move on to the complexion. I'm adding a little bit more of the Embryolisse lotion right under the eyes, since that's where we just wiped off the fallout. I still want that area to be hydrated. I'm super excited to use this on camera. This is the Origins Original Skin Pore Perfecting Cooling Primer with Willow Herb. I mentioned this primer in my favorites video. I'm just gonna take a little bit of that. It's so cold. And I mainly, I'm sorry, it's so cold. But I'm mainly gonna focus this in the T-zone, just because it's a pore minimizing, like oil controlling type of primer. I mean, it's so good though. It's so fun to use, and I also really do feel like it does a great job at perfecting the skin, and it's so refreshing. So I recently saw in my friend Shelby Wilson's video, her favorites video from last month, I believe, she mentioned this combination of drugstore foundations, and these are two of my favorites. She said she was loving the combo of this. It's the Maybelline Fit Me Matte and Poreless Foundation mixed with the Neutrogena Hydro Boost Hydrating Tint. So I wanted to give it a shot. I want to see how I like that, because Shelby and I have really similar tastes in makeup, so I was like, girl, I'm gonna try that. I'm just gonna mix these on the back of my hand. I made a mess with this on the back of my hand. But I'm just going to apply this all over the skin. I can definitely see why Shelby recommended mixing these two foundations. It's such a pretty finish and result that you get out of it, because you get like the full coverage of the matte and poreless, but then it's much more hydrating from the Neutrogena foundation. So I'm excited about that. I'm gonna keep on testing that combo out. I'm gonna go into my Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector. This is a really great under eye corrector, and since I'm using blue, I really don't want any blues underneath my eyes to be accentuated. So I'm gonna make sure that I originally start off with a pretty bright under eye area. And this is typically the only color correcting that I do, is this peach under the eyes. Any other kind of color correcting, just for me, looks a little too unnatural, and it's hard to conceal. But this product is really nice and it works really well. I'm gonna go ahead and hop into my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer. I just barely got a new one, so I'm extremely excited to be using it again. I completely ran out of my other one, and I'm happy to have it back. So I just like to kind of go down the center of the face as well as under the eyes, and then I'll just take my little sponge and blend all of this out. And I'm being careful close to the edges of the eyeshadow not to ruin that. So just be really careful as you go toward the edges to not accidentally stamp concealer on all your hard work. So next I'm going to take my Fit Me powder again. I'm combining the shades Fair and Fair Light because it looks like her under eye area wasn't actually too bright. So I feel like combining my two shades will provide that perfect in-between color. I'm also going to use that to set the center of the face. And then for the outer portions of the face, I'm going to take the Maybelline Fit Me loose powder in the shade Fair Light. Just kind of dust that around the cheek area as well as the forehead. Basically wherever we're going to be applying bronzer so that it doesn't get patchy when we apply it. So let's do the lower lash line. I'm actually going to be combining this dark teal and this right here. Make sure there's not too much fallout since we already have the complexion done. I don't want too much. So I'm just going to start running this on the lower lash line. And it looks like she took the blue all the way into the inner corner. So now I'm just taking a clean brush and buffing out the edges because again, this eye look is super blended. So I want all of the edges to really flow into the rest of the makeup. So I actually just took a little bit of this color and put it right kind of in the center of the lower lash line as well, just to make sure that everything's nice and tied together. Now it looks like she has something in the waterline. I think it's a light gray. This is the only gray liner I have. It's from Stila. It's their Smudge Stick Waterproof Eyeliner in the shade Half Moon. I don't even know if they make this anymore. It's kind of old, honestly, but just use whatever gray eyeliner you've got. And I am not good at doing this on camera, so I'm applying it to the waterline. So now I'm gonna pop on some mascara. This is the L'Oreal Voluminous Lash Paradise Mascara, and I'm going to go ahead and apply 2 coats to the top and bottom. So while we let the mascara dry, I'm gonna go ahead and go back into the complexion. I'm gonna use my current favorite bronzer from L'Oreal. This is the True Match Lumi Bronze It Bronzer. Mine is in the shade 01 Light, and I'm just going to start to press this onto the cheek area, just right under the cheekbones, and basically just around the perimeters of the face as well. I love to kind of get it into the hairline on the forehead. I take what's left and go along the jawline and then down the neck. I'm also going to take that bronzer and do a really light contour on the nose. I also like to go underneath the nose and right under the lip, just with that same bronzer. And then I just buff over everything to make sure it's all really blended. For blush, I'm going to be going into the L'Oreal True Match blush. This is in the shade N3 to 4. It's called Innocent Flush. She definitely has a really nice peach blush on, so I thought this would be perfect for this look. So I'm just going to start to kind of stamp this on the cheeks. And for highlighter, I wanted to use something a little bit more like light in undertone. And this is a really pretty champagne one from Bare Minerals. It's their Invisible Glow. Mine is in the shade Fair to Light. This is just a really nice, subtle, buildable highlight, which are my favorite. So I'm just going to go ahead and start to buff this onto the high points of the face. I'm bringing some to the front of the cheeks as well, so that when you smile, you kind of have a little bit of a glow. I personally just really like how that looks. Then in between the eyes and down the center of the nose, a little bit above the brows. So I'm going to go ahead and set the face before I go in with individual lashes and finish up the lips. I'm going to be using the Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. This stuff is so good. I'm gonna get rid of this foundation on my lips. So next I'm gonna be applying some individual lashes on the top lashes. She for sure had a few. So I'm gonna be using the Ardell Individuals. These are both not free. I have the short and medium lengths. I did a whole video on how I like to apply individual lashes, so I will link that down below. I'm gonna do this off camera to save time, and I will be right back. Honestly. So I just applied the individual lashes. It's really not too much of a difference. It just really helps kind of fill in the gaps and gives a little bit more of a natural volume. So we're gonna go ahead and go back into the Dream Street palette. I'm gonna take this bluish silvery shade, and this, my friends, is what we're gonna use for our inner corner highlight. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pop this just right in the corner, making sure to blend it up into the eyeshadow on the top lid here and then also underneath. So in the photo, Haley's eyebrows are really just kind of natural. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of break them up a little bit with my favorite brow gel from Benefit. This is the 24-Hour Brow Setter. And I'm just gonna really work this into the brows. Her brows weren't very filled in, like they weren't precise, I guess. They were filled in, but they just kind of had a really natural look to them. So I'm kind of trying to mimic that by making them a little bit more piecey with the brow gel. So now let's do lips. I'm gonna go ahead and use the Flower Beauty. I think this is just their lipstick. I don't know. Oh, Petal Pout Lip Color. That's what it is. In the shade Naked Blush. This is such a pretty color. And then on top, I'm gonna use the Glossier Lip Gloss. I've been loving this. She just has a little bit of gloss on top. I'm just adding a tiny bit more blush to just the front of the cheeks. So there you go, you guys. That's the finished look. What do you think? Did we get it? Did we get it pretty close? I think so. I lied. I'm putting some highlighter on the brow bone. I always say I'm done and then I touch up a little more. Oh, okay. I'm actually done. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope you enjoyed the final look. If you guys end up recreating this look, be sure to send it to me on Twitter or tag me on Instagram. I would love to see your recreations. I personally really like how it turned out. I love how wearable this is, even though you're using blues and teals. It's so soft and really wearable and still so glam at the same time. I'm really impressed with how much I like it, actually. I would have never, ever chosen to do a look like this if I hadn't seen that photo and been inspired by it. So I'm really glad I took the plunge and took the challenge on because I think it turned out really, really nice. Remember to enter the giveaway on my Instagram. All the details will be down below in the description. And yeah, that's everything. I love you all so much and I will see you in my next video. Love you. Bye!